I'm an irrelevant fantasy and I have some thoughts that I want to get out of my head. Content warning for this video. I'm going to be talking about murder and suicide. For those that may be struggling, there are a number of resources that you can reach out to, including the Trans Lifeline. In the United States, call 1-877-565-8860, and in Canada, call 1-877-330-6366. I'm releasing this video on the Transgender Day of Remembrance. This is a really difficult day for me, as I'm sure it is for all of us. The Trans Day of Remembrance is a day to remember all of the gender diverse people that were taken from us in the last year. It's important to reflect and to understand, because it's only by coming together and supporting each other that we've been able to make the progress that we have. I've chosen 5 gender diverse people that were taken from us before their time. People that gave us something wonderful, and people that could have given so much more. The first person I want to talk about is a woman named Dora Richter. Dora has a very important place in the history of gender diversity and medical transition. She's one of the first people to go through gender affirmation surgery, and one of the first male to female patients that we know of. She was born in 1891 to a poor farming family. She worked during her summers as a waiter, presenting as her assigned gender, and then spent the rest of the year living as a woman. She was periodically arrested for cross-dressing before being released into the care of Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. Now, Dr. Hirschfeld is someone who is absolutely worthy of his own video, but for our purposes today, it was his help to get paperwork that allowed her to legally identify herself as a woman, and she was able to get work as a domestic servant in the Hirschfeld Institute, which was one of the rare places that trans people could be employed in those days. The residents of the Institute affectionately referred to her as Dorchen. In 1922, she underwent an orchiectomy, and in 1931, she underwent 2 procedures that completed her bottom surgery. In May of 1933, a mob of students attacked the Institute, destroying many of its records, and Dora is not known to have survived the incident. I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to complete my own bottom surgery a few years ago. I know that it's a very complicated procedure, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Dora was one of many incredibly brave people who helped pave the way for that. One of the things that stood out to me when I was researching her is just how little there is. And that's a shame. There's so many things that I wish were written down for future generations to learn from. The next person that I want to remember is Teena. A lot of you may be familiar with Teena through the movie Boys Don't Cry. Brandon was murdered because he filed rape charges against 2 men. They raped him because they found out he was trans. From everything that I've read about Brandon, it seems like he was a really great guy. Funny, happy all the time. There was a lot of people who cared a great deal about him, and he seems like somebody who would have been a really good friend to have. There is an awful lot to unpack in the story of Teena, but it did become an important cultural touchstone to further the understanding of trans people and gender diversity as a whole. The third person that I want to remember is Leelah Alcon. This story is absolutely heartbreaking. Leelah committed suicide on December 28, 2014. Leelah arranged to have the following note posted online shortly after her death. When I was 14, I learned what transgender meant and cried of happiness. After 10 years of confusion, I finally understood who I was. I immediately told my mom, and she reacted extremely negatively, telling me that it was a phase, that I would never truly be a girl, that God doesn't make mistakes, that I am wrong. If you are reading this, parents, please don't tell this to your kids. Even if you are Christian or against transgender people, don't ever say that to someone, especially your kid. That won't do anything but make them hate themselves. That's exactly what it did to me. I get the impression that Leelah was a very kind and generous soul. She expressed her wish that after her death, all of her possessions be donated to a transgender charity, and called for issues surrounding transgender identity to be taught in schools. Her note ended with the statement, "Fix society, please." Leelah's suicide sparked a massive social outcry. It spurred a lot of legal progress towards ending conversion therapy and awareness about transgender youth. Sadly, Leelah herself is not around to continue that message. From her notes, from her words, I get the impression that she was a very intelligent and very thoughtful person. If she was still with us, I believe that she would be an absolutely incredible voice in our community. In researching Leelah Alcon, I came across two other individuals that I wanted to remember today. One of those is a person named Ash Haffner. Ash died by suicide at age 16, likely as the result of intensive bullying. A note written by Ash about their gender identity reads as follows: "He, she, it, thing, be so quick jumping to labels. My pronouns do not define me, but when you ask me if I'm a boy or a girl, I don't know how to answer. I haven't even identified yet, so just leave me alone and call me Ash." As of this recording, Ash Haffner's YouTube channel is still up. I listened to some of the songs that they posted and they're incredible. They're so beautiful. I wish that this person had had the opportunity to continue their music. It's tragic that we're never going to be able to hear more. Check the links below and go and listen to some of Ash's songs. They're quite incredible. And another person that I want to remember is Blake Brockington. Blake received a lot of attention for being the first openly trans homecoming king in North Carolina. He managed to collect the most money for the chosen charity, Mothering Across Continents. He said that the process was tough on him. I quote, "That was single-handedly the hardest part of my trans journey. Really hateful things were said on the internet. It was hard. I saw how narrow-minded the world really is." Reading about him, Blake was a really incredible person. He once spoke at a Transgender Day of Remembrance service in Charlotte. He organized a protest against police brutality against Black people. He was involved in setting up an exhibit, publicly identified coming out activist in the Queen City. He was also a mentor to transgender youth. He was active in the faith community, and he participated in the Trans Faith in Action Conference, held in Charlotte 2014. He was enrolled at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. So many incredible contributions. Like Leelah, Ash, and countless others, Blake died by suicide. I don't have words, but I think it's important that we pay attention and that we remember. To those who watch this, thank you. Remember that there are people who love and care about you. Take care.